Welcome back to our subject, Organization and Management. So right now, we're going to continue the Chapter 3, Planning. So for this week, we're going to discuss the last remaining three topics under planning. The first one is planning techniques and tools and the application of it and the decision making. So we're going to discuss first lesson 4 and 5. So it will be already together. The planning techniques and tools and application of those planning tools and techniques. So let's define first what planning tools are. Planning tools are techniques managers can use to help develop plans. So, di ba, we already discussed about what is planning and also what are the types of planning and kung ano-ano yung mga plans na ginagawa for different levels in the firm. So, right now, we're going to understand what are the tools that is being used in planning. So, for our lesson, we're going to understand these planning tools: break-even analysis, forecasting models, linear programming, and simulation models. First one, we have break-even analysis. So, break-even analysis is one of the most widely used planning tool in businesses. So, this technique can be used for analyzing the effect on profits of different pricing strategies or of different alternatives in incurring costs. In break To help you more understand the break-even analysis, so I have here the graph. So for the x-axis or the horizontal axis, there is the unit sold. And for the y-axis or the vertical axis, so there's the revenue. So it means in a company, so there are fixed costs and variable costs. So later on, we are going to discuss those costs and why what are the difference between those two. And then for this one, as you can see, the break-even point is at the point wherein the company doesn't have any income or any loss. So, meaning, as you can see on the graph, so the revenue is going up while the cost is also going up as the revenue also goes up since the more items being sold, the more cost that you have. So, at the point wherein the revenue and the cost meet, so that's the break-even point. This analysis is greatly used by managers so that they can know what are the effects on profits of the different pricing strategies and the alternatives in incurring the cost that they have. And also, it is widely used so that the business can determine whether how many number of units they need to sell in order to avoid losses. So, ito kasi yung parang pinaka main agenda ng break-even analysis. So, hanggang saan yung mabebenta nung business para hindi sila magkaroon ng loss. Under break-even analysis, as I told you earlier, so we also need to understand the difference between fixed and variable cost and ano-ano ba sila. So first one, let's discuss about fixed costs. So fixed costs are business expenses that are not dependent on the level of goods or services produced by the business. So meaning, it does not change with an increase or decrease in the amount of the goods or services that you produce. So, ibig sabihin, fixed na siya. So, for it, you can either produce 100 units and you can either produce 1,000 units, but still, the fixed cost will still be the same. They tend to be time-related, such as rental lease payments, salaries, insurance, property taxes, interest expenses, depreciation, and potentially some utilities. So, ito yung mga example natin ng fixed cost. So, as you can see, or kung mahalata nyo, ito yung mga cost na fix or meron na talagang based per month. Like, for example, rent. So, every month, kung ang base sa lease contract is you need to pay 10,000 for the rent, so either you produce a lot of items for this month and then for next month plus konti, but still the rent will still be the same for the months as long as it is covered under the contract. While variable cost or cost that change is the quantity of the good or service that a business produces changes. So meaning these costs are highly dependent on the quantity of the goods or services that you produce. Examples of variable costs include the cost of raw materials and packaging. So, as you can see, highly related siya dun sa mismong item na ibebenta mo. Kaya, yung cost na to is highly dependent din dun sa kung gaano mo kadami napoproduce yung isang item. One scenario is, for example, the cost of packaging is 1 peso. And then you're going to produce 10 units. So that will be a total of 10 pesos for that 10 units. Well, if you're going to produce 100 units of that, so the cost will be now 100 peso. So as you can see, it is highly dependent on the number of the goods being produced. As the quantity of the goods increases, so the variable cost also increases. Also, in order to compute for the break-even units, we have the break-even units formula. So, as you can see, break-even units equals to fixed cost divided by the selling price less the variable cost. So, again, dito sa break-even is ina-analyze natin kung hanggang saang units yung ibebenta natin na hindi tayo makakapag-incur ng loss. So, in order for us not to incur loss, so ibig sabihin, dapat yung revenue natin is makover niya lahat ng cost or expenses ng business. So, again, ano-ano ba yung cost? So, yun yung fixed cost and variable cost. And then, yung SP dito, so that's the selling price per unit. And then the VC is a variable cost per unit. Also, in this formula, it is being shown that the break-even analysis is used to determine the point at which all fixed costs have been recovered and profitability begins. So, to fully understand our lesson about break-even analysis, so let's have an illustration. So, Mr. Dolomite is a managerial accountant in charge of company MB, which sells water bottles. He previously determined that the fixed cost of company MB consists of property taxes, rent, and executive salaries, which add up to 100,000. The variable cost associated with producing one bottle is 2 pesos per unit. The water bottle is sold at 12 pesos per bottle. So, determine the break-even point of Company MB's water bottle. So, first one, we need to identify the given items. So, based on the illustration, we identified that the fixed cost amounts to 100,000. And then the selling price is 12 pesos per unit. And then the variable cost is 2 pesos per unit. So, ibig sabihin, ibebenta nila yung water bottles ng 12 pesos. And then yung cost, lahat ng cost, kada bottle is 2 pesos. And then, yung fixed cost or yung mga hindi naman nakadepende sa dami ng ipoproduce mo is yun yung 100,000 pesos. Once you have identified the given item, so you need to transpose that to our formula. So, break-even units equals fixed cost divided by the selling price per unit less the variable cost per unit. So, again, our selling price is 12 pesos. So, less the variable cost of 2 pesos. So, yung contribution margin natin or the difference between the selling price and the variable cost equals to 10 pesos. So the total fixed cost of 100,000 divided by the 10 pesos per unit. So that will be 10,000 water bottles. So our break-even units is 10,000 water bottles. Therefore, given the fixed cost, variable cost, and selling price of the water bottles, Company MB would need to sell 10,000 units of water bottles to break even. So again, dito sa break-even analysis is this is where we analyze kung hanggang saang level of sales volume or prices at which the firm's profit will be zero. So meaning we will incur neither profit nor loss. So for us to check this one in this illustration, so again, our break-even units is 10,000 water bottles. And then our selling price per unit is 12 pesos. So, if you multiply the 12 pesos times the break-even unit, so ibig sabihin, ito yung mabebenta natin kung saan hindi tayo makaka-incur ng loss at profit na din. So, ibig sabihin, magiging equal lang yung total revenue natin sa lahat ng expenses na meron yung company. So, 12 times 10,000, so that will be 120,000. So, that will be our total revenue or total income or total gross income. And then, our variable cost is 2 pesos. So, let's multiply that with the number of units. That's 10,000. So that will be a total variable cost of 20,000. So let's deduct the 20,000 from the total revenue, which is 120. So 120 less 20,000, that's 100,000. So again, the 100,000 is the contribution margin. And then the fixed cost that we have already identified earlier amounts to 100,000 as well. So 100,000 less 100,000, so that will be a profit or loss of 0. So, ibig sabihin, again, dito sa formula na to, so once yung selling price less variable cost ay minultiply mo dun sa break-even units, is dapat mag-i-equal siya dun sa amount ng fixed cost. Okay? So, if you have any more questions, so on our synchronous class, I can entertain questions about this one. Let's move on to the next planning tool, which is forecasting models. Forecasting models is the process of predicting future environmental happenings that will influence the operation of the organization. So, ano ba yung importance nito? So, it is important because it will help the managers understand the future makeup of the organizational environment. So, which is, in return, is mahelp niya din yung managers to formulate more effective plans. So, one example of this forecasting model is the future sales of the company. So, the sales forecast is the key organizational forecast. So, ibig sabihin, it is very important for organizations and businesses to have um, this forecasting model, which is kasi it relates to the ultimate goal of the organization or any business na makapag-earn ng income. So, what is sales forecast? Sales forecast is a prediction of how high or low sales of organizations, products, or services will be over the period of time under consideration. So, ito yung pag-forecast ng isang organization kung gaano ba sila kikita. So, this is the key forecast of organizations because this serves as the fundamental guideline of planning. So, only after the sales forecast has been completed, so doon lang pwede makapag-decide yung mga managers about other aspects. Like, for example, kung tataasan ba yung sweldo or kung are we gonna open a new line, or if magbubukas ba tayo ng hiring, or can we cater more employees. So, lahat is magsisimula sa sales forecast. Kaya din siya super important. Kasi syempre, dun mo malalaman kung magkano yung kikitain mo. So, if kaya ba nung isuffice yung buong organization. So, we can prepare sales forecast facilities planning by addressing the following questions. What product mix should the company have next year? So, ano-ano ba yung mga products na ibebenta, for example, next year? And then, kung ano-ano yung prices ng mga products na yon. And also, if the company should advertise to be able to sell those prices. Or, should the company sell that on credit? So, if yes, so ano naman yung credit period? And then, what is the expected sales volume for each product? Like, for example, product A, so are we expecting a huge number of customers for that or not? And then, should the company expand production facilities to meet the expected sales volume? So, for example, mataas yung demand for a certain product ng company. So, meron ba tayong urgent need na mag-expand ng production facilities para mas ma-meet yung demand ng customers? So again, so we can prepare the sales forecast facilities planning by addressing those questions. So parang dun magsisimula, and then saka natin i-build yung plan. Always remember, you need to follow the statement for forecasted amounts in order to get the total sales forecast. For example, it is projected that our current sales of 10,000 will be increased by 100% next month. Since it is increased by, the current sales of 10,000 will be added by another 100% in order to get the sales forecast for next month. So, the sales forecast of 10,000 plus 10,000 because 100% nga. So, that will be total of 20,000 for our sales next month. So, since increased by yung ginamit, so, yun. So, dapat buong 100% din yung i-add sa current sales natin na yun. So, always follow if it is increased by, increased to, or decreased by, and decreased to. And always follow the statement. Like, for example, ang sabihin naman is for next month, so that will be 20% of this, or for next month, it will be added another 5,000 for our sales. So, yun yung magiging computation natin for the sales forecast. Next planning tool is linear programming. Linear programming is the process of formulating a detailed listing of activities that must be accomplished to attain a certain objective. So it also involves the allocating or allocation of the resources necessary to attain the said objective and to set up and follow the timetables for completing the said objective. So example of linear programming is the Gantt chart and activity network diagram. So we have already discussed this Gantt chart and activity network diagram last lesson 2 when we've discussed about the roles and responsibilities of managers. So under planning, we discussed these two. So again, Gantt charts are very useful for scheduling and planning projects. So, di ba dito sa Gantt chart, meron yung mga said task or activities and then yung timetable niya. And then, for activity network diagram, so this is a planning tool used to diagram activities in sequence from start to finish. So, para din siyang Gantt chart. So, ito yung mga examples ng linear programming na ginagawa under planning ng isang organization or business. Last planning tool is the simulation models. Simulation models in business are mathematical representations of some aspect of a business operation. So, these simulation models are used when the planning variables as well as their interrelationships are so numerous and complex that it is difficult to analytically assess the net effect of a change in one or number of the variables involved. Did they know that with the aid of computers, it is possible to include in the model a large number of variables and their relationships? So, if the model adequately represents the real situation, then the results of the model may reasonably approximate results which can be expected in the real world. So that's why simulation is useful in complex situations such as predicting product demand. So in predicting product demand, we consider the effect of changes in the pricing policies of competitors or the effect of a change in foreign exchange rate on competitors or the effect of a change in foreign exchange rate on company profits considering changes in minimum wage and inflation rates. So, ito yung mga ina-analyze under simulation. So, ito yung mga complex situation in an organization or a business. One scenario as well is if the company's competitors, so they reduce their prices, holding all other variables constant, so the demand on the company's products may decline, so yung sa company natin, unless the company implements a strategy to prevent this. So example, they match the price decrease of the competitor or they improve the product and sell at the same price. So likewise, the company profits may also decline if deterioration in the peso vis-a-vis the dollar results in wage increases and high inflation. So these are the following scenarios wherein we can use simulation. So again, the four planning tools we have break-even analysis, forecasting models, linear programming, and simulation models. And that's the end of our lesson 4 and lesson 5, planning tools and techniques and its applications. Should you have any questions, feel free to message me on my Facebook or through my mobile number. Take care guys and God bless.